Right. Hello.
Take 2.
Take 2. There were 10-ish really good minutes in this episode of Doctor Who. There were 10. And since we're a positive YouTube channel, we're going to talk about the 10 minutes first.
It was about 23.
Nah, there wasn't. So the 10 really good minutes were when we'd finally arrived at Heathrow after an appalling model shot. And you know that I am more forgiving of special effects in Doctor Who than most. But after an abysmal model shot of the TARDIS just glued on a stock photo of a runway.
But how would you have had them depict that? Because it was the TARDIS just stuck above, hovering 10 feet above.
I think my fundamental issue with this story generally, and I'm going to get back to the positivity in a moment, is that there's no consistency of televisual style. All right? So we'll get back to this in a moment. But that was inconsistent and rubbish. Then we landed in Heathrow and suddenly it got good, like really good for about 10 minutes. It had the feel of a sort of Third Doctor type story, particularly with the mention of Unit and the Brigadier. That was charming. I love the Doctor going off and finding a newspaper so he can look at the cricket scores. That's really cool. That's, using the whole cricket aspect of this Doctor nicely. I really like the coming up with this plan very, very quickly to fly Concorde. Absolutely bonkers, but I'm totally behind it. That's almost like Graham Williams era, just ridiculous. Or Douglas Adamsy. No, they're the same, aren't they, of course? Yeah, brilliant. I like the sort of whose vehicle is bigger than the other face-off between the captain and the Doctor when the captain casts aspersions about the quality of the Doctor's transport. So that bit, I love Tegan being back at, I would normally want to stick around, but should we get out of the way? All that stuff, really loved that. And at one point, I really particularly enjoyed the fact that she put her air hostess voice back on out of nowhere because she was doing air hostessy things. Absolutely fantastic.
And don't forget Nissa did some acting.
You hate Nissa.
I'm being nice. That was me being positive. I don't hate Nissa at all.
Let's do the other bits of this. God, the other bits of this. Right.
They talked about Adric.
Right.
That's
No. So the programme opens not with our 3 remaining crew members absolutely bereft. No, it opens with a flipping Concorde. The last that we heard of this programme.
Yeah, but Concorde's fundamentally like a real British thing.
Dude's just died, man. Yeah, you're so callous.
Concorde's still Concorde. He was from a different universe.
No. Oh, right. So he's worth less now. We can see where this is going, and we'll come back to that kind of attitude towards the end of this episode. You monster. So we open with Concorde, and this bobbin's slightly overlong, but I'll go with it. It was no flipping Terror of the Zygons when the oil rig got destroyed, was it? It was just, no. So then we get the Doctor in the TARDIS with Tegan and Nissa. They've already done the housekeeping, right? Tegan's got back in her air hostess uniform. This is not 3 people in the throes of grief. It's just Nissa's got a list and she's ticking things off. Cyber fleet dispersed.
Yeah, but Nissa's got no emotions. Her dad's died and she didn't.
Dude.
In fact, she seemed to care more about Adric than her dad.
So then, Tegan's trying to do some acting here, and Davison.
What's wrong with Tegan's acting?
No. And what I'm saying, she's been dealt a bad hand, and she's doing her best with it. Davison is. How can you, as an actor, pick your way through this emotional mess of these moments? Because the Doctor can't. It's just well, I can't change it. Don't ever ask me again, or something like that. It's do one. There's a completely normal human response.
A totally reasonable Gallifreyan response.
And then it's I know, let's bob off to an exhibition. Lol.
Not just any exhibition. Come on.
Oh, God almighty. No.
What's got into you recently?
No. I can't. If you're going
to... This is a Whoathon.
If to set up this soap opera conceit, right, you've got to follow through. And they're not following through at all.
They did.
So then we got the 10 good minutes. Brilliant. Loved it.
You've done nothing but moan, but
I
okay.
haven't. I've said how good that 10 minutes was. And the thing about those 10 good minutes, and we talked about like the tone of the show, the visual, I can't remember what phrase I used. The inconsistency there. Right, so these 10 good minutes, we were set on location in Heathrow. We saw a flipping Concorde. So this is fairly real world. Like offices, you know, we can do all that. Fairly real world. Now,
Or
Doctor
is
Who
it?
can do theatrical, all right? Now, we're going to cast our minds forward, which I don't try to do, but my go-to on this is the Happiness Patrol. There is no way you can watch the Happiness Patrol and not know that that is a television programme. It's very stagey, it's very theatre, but it absolutely works. But the thing that helps it work is there's a consistency of the language of television, right? When you land in the Happiness Patrol for those 3 episodes, everything's consistently stagey, whatever else like that. If all of a sudden you went on location and filmed, especially if you're filming on film, and that's a very key thing here, because that does happen, the switch between videotape and film, then all of a sudden the suspension of disbelief that we've got in the Happiness Patrol falls apart. That is exactly what happens here. You cannot go from having the ultra-realistic, because it is Heathrow, I assume, Heathrow, and flipping ultra-realistic Concorde, because it is flipping Concorde. They had permission to film with Concorde. You cannot go from that to one of the most stagey, theatrical-looking sets than I have ever seen. I remember, Libby, darling, you laughed at City of Death when we landed in the primordial soup, and you sniggered. Right? This is 1,000 times
This is
worse.
different because
No, it's not different. Stop trying to defend this story. Go on, why is it different?
I kind of, when I was watching it, the conceit that it's like a unreal world with a filter over it almost made that seem okay to me.
But surely that works if it's the other way around, if what they're seeing is the theatrical and then you end up with the hyper-realistic, isn't it? And that bit where they set up the special effects shot where the background was going to fade away, and clearly they were like CSO'd or green screened. Oh my God. And then the big grey blobby
The
things.
big grey blobby things, I think, was the 2 minutes of rubbish.
Oh, good Lord.
The story's interesting. Like, I don't know what's...
I've not even got to the worst bit yet. And if you try and defend the worst bit, we will know what kind of person you are, all right?
A nice positive one. Go
You
on.
can't do this character, this weird grey-faced character, in this way,
Southeast Asian.
because it is the most racist the show has been. It's only been this racist twice before, and maybe 3 times. But you can't. It's 1982.
Just feel a little bit
It's
stereotyping.
you can't do that.
But he's not a...
He's coded as another bloody Mandarin. What is it that this program's got with Mandarins? What is it? Or I'm not even gonna do an impression of the racist. No, I'm not, because you could clip it and I'd get cancelled, and rightly bloody so. Unbelievable. Oh,
I'll be interested to hear what Elizabeth Sandler says about that.
if there's any episode, story, Doctor Who story, or just single episode of Doctor Who that needed to kick, that needed to be sculpted in a particular way, it's got to be the one after Earthshock.
I think it is.
I think that... Oh, God.
I'm enjoying it so far. Is it a 4-parter?
It is a 4-part.
Oh, we're going to get a lot of content in, because a lot seems to have happened in this first.
Yeah, it felt the longest episode of Doctor Who I've ever watched.
Most interesting episode.
You are an absolute troll. You're a troll. I don't need YouTube comments, because I've got you in the video trolling me.
Some of us have different opinions, Stu, and that's okay.